Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming back to another episode of Breaking the Code. And we've got something a little controversial for you today. So, breaking the code, one topic, no script. And this week, Jamie and I are going to be talking about, are comic fans too critical? Okay, so let's go ahead and take that question at face value. Are comic fans too critical? Jamie, yes or no?
They have a right to be.
Okay. Why do
And
you think that?
I say that because everyone has an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you think you're right or wrong, you're right. And that's what I love about this culture is the fact that no matter I could hate Jared Leto's performance in The Suicide Squad, but you could love it because you
Right.
found something that you loved about it. I might be right for my own reason,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not wrong.
Fair enough.
So
Okay.
we do. So comic book fans are critical to the extent that they're opinionated, and
Mhm.
when you go into something like that, and you see like certain people like bashing books because they're changing the sexuality of a character, or they're going into bashing books because they retconned them.
Mhm.
Yeah, they got their own opinions. You want to be right about it, feel like you're right about it, fine, but don't be critical enough to where you make other people feel like they're wrong.
Right. Don't alienate other people
Yes,
because of
you can,
how they feel about a particular movie or TV show.
yes, you could love the stuff you love, and that's the
Mhm.
greatest thing. But if you don't like something, have a discussion. Don't just tell them they're wrong right away, like I do to all my podcasting buddies here and co-hosts. I just tell them they're wrong all the time, and they usually listen, and then
No, I'm
walk away and be
sorry.
like,
I can't.
"No,
I'm
exactly."
having a hard time hearing you right now.
Tim's gonna cry himself to
I'm
sleep
being
tonight.
too critical right now.
Yes, but no, in a sense, they have that right. They have every right
Mhm.
to be critical.
Okay.
I mean, I was one of those people that I hated like certain aspects of a character in a show if they
Mhm.
weren't true to the nature of the character. Like if this was, I don't know, 15 years ago and you told me Jason Momoa was going to be Aquaman, I would have
Right.
slapped the spit out of your mouth. And blonde hair, blue eyes. Look at that dude. Like,
Yeah.
go back to Conan. Like, and that's how I was. And I was always the type to, if I saw something that wasn't story driven the way I saw it in the comics, I wouldn't like it. But
It's
now
like
I've
it's like the great saying. Like, okay, let's take Star Wars fans, for example. The only people that hate Star Wars worse than Star Wars critics are Star Wars fans. You
yes,
know what I mean? And I think that rule also applies to comic book fans too. Um, I I think that at times this fandom can be one of the most toxic places in the universe, right? Because some of these people just get so upset over things that are being changed, from sexuality to race to even costumes.
mm-hmm.
Now, granted, like you said, they have a right to be upset about certain things,
Yeah,
but not everything. It's like, let's
mm-hmm.
take Batgirl, for example, the new movie that's coming out. When they
Okay,
debuted the costume, people were throwing a fit. And
yep,
I had read comments about people saying cosplayers have done better jobs than this. This is absolutely horrible. This is a multi-million-dollar budget movie, and they're doing this for a costume. Guys, that suit is probably more comic book accurate than a lot of other costumes that have come on screen. And it's just ridiculous to give out that much hatred over something that is inconsequential. Because, and I've said this on the podcast before, those people that are that loud and that vocal about how much they despise whatever is happening to any particular character, they're going to be in line, they're going to pay for them tickets, and they're going to sit there and they're going to watch the same movie that everybody else is going to watch. And
right.
some of them are even going to go and see it twice. So are comic fans too critical? I think my initial answer is yes. And I think a lot of them need to calm down. It's just a movie, guys. I mean, these companies are multi-billion-dollar companies, and yes, they need to cater to us to a certain extent, but if they cater to us to the demands that we put forth, the movies are going to be horrible, and you all know that.
Yeah, and I mean to an extent, I do, understand where you're coming from. But you got from my standpoint too, like I was in their shoes at one point. I was that person. I was like, screw this movie. I'm not even gonna do it. Like I seen the first one. Yeah. It's not comic accurate at all. Why is it happening? And I was put it this way. I was that way with Tom Holland Spider-Man.
I think I was that way with Ben Affleck's Daredevil.
Yeah. So with Spider-Man, everybody that I talked to that saw it, you could ask everybody that I've talked to about it. I'd give you a list. You can call them all. They'll tell you the same thing. I hated his character so much in his character arc so much because it was Batman and Robin and MCU, essentially. Yeah. The villains were amazing, literally. But like the whole time I'm crying about Tony Stark. Tony Stark doesn't like me. Daddy doesn't love me. It was my biggest problem, my biggest pet peeve. I'm like, I can't watch these movies, man. Yeah. Like, I don't understand. Like when I think I said it in an episode before, when he dusted in Infinity War, I stood up and clapped. Like I was in my chair going, yay, finally. I don't have to see him again, hopefully.
For 3 years.
Yes. And then he came back and, I was like, no. My hopes and dreams. But then obviously I'm thinking like I used to as, hey, maybe something can be better. Maybe I'm missing something here. And then No Way Home comes out and blew the doors off of everything for me.
Oh, yeah.
And I was one of those people. I was like, I hate the costumes. I hate what they're doing with the character. This is dumb. And then took 10 minutes of a costume to make me go, whew, when's the next one coming out? Because we got the Spider-Man that we know.
Yeah, exactly.
And I made
those movies in Civil War to bring us.
Oh, and I loved him in Civil War. Yeah. I thought he was fantastic. After that, I don't know what the scripts were that
Captain
they
America.
Doing.
Hey, how's it going? Hi, everybody.
Right. Yeah. But no, like I was one of those people, and I haven't been that way in a long time. And that was the first time I've done it. So I kind of reverted back to those shoes. So I can understand where people are coming from with it. Right. But at the same time, I never said that others were wrong for it.
Well, let's
I just said that I just gave my examples like I give you. Like, hey, dude, it wasn't a Spider-Man movie, though. Like, it was a Batman and Robin movie with Spider-Man and Iron Man in it.
Well, let's step away from the movies for a minute and let's take it down to the comic book level.
Oh, yes.
So let's talk about that for a second. So, here's an example of comic book fans being too critical that actually worked in everybody's favor, at least to me. And then here's an example of comic book fans being too critical that is not working in their favor. And I'll go with the latter first. Okay. So what's not working in their favor, being super duper critical, is Superman's son, Superman, son of Kal-El, with him being coming out as bisexual and people throwing an absolute fit over something like that. Guys, I think that is absolutely ridiculous to throw a fit about that. I mean, your opinions on that topic aside, right? This is doing exactly what these loud people have asked for, and that is an organic character that has a natural arc that progresses to this point, right? So what did they do? They took Superman's son. I can never remember his name, but they took him.
Jonathan?
Well, I mean, like his Kryptonian name. I can never remember it.
Okay.
But they took him, and he aged over the course of how many issues?
Right there is where I'm going to bring up this one fact.
Okay, go ahead.
Bendis aged him from like 10 to 17.
Yeah.
No one blinked an eye.
No, nobody cared.
A lot of people hated the writing of it and how it transpired, but no one was like, can we just put him back to the way he was?
But the second he leans in to kiss a dude, everybody loses their minds.
Yes.
And that's ridiculous. It's natural progression for this character to be this way. And it what are comic books? I mean, take it all the way back to the 60s, with the X-Men. They're inclusive of everybody, and everybody has a voice, and people that are in the LGBTQ plus community now have a voice in the character of Jonathan Kent. I think that's fine. I don't have any problems with that. That does not bother me at all. I collect the books. I read the books. The stories are good right now. I think Taylor's doing a fantastic job with the writing on that. And it's
Taylor, dude. Like, he does a fantastic time with anything.
Right. You can't go wrong with Taylor, and he's doing wonderfully. And the stories are just progressing naturally, and that's what people asked for, and they got what they wanted, and now they're complaining about it, and it just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, so I'll say one thing right now, and then I'll let you finish. But the one thing I always bring up, and I'll say it every podcast and every time we're on the show, and when it comes to things about like topics like this, people beg for change, but they don't want change, and it's annoying.
Exactly. They beg and beg and beg and beg that they want to have it. They have to have it. It is necessary that we have to have change. But the minute change comes along, they're like, whoa, I didn't want that kind of change.
Yeah, that's a steep, drastic change. It's like, no, you complaining you don't want the same stories over and over again. The same exact thing, but with a different filler villain.
Yeah.
And now they do it, and it's like, why would you do that? No, like, you can't play two sides of the same coin like here.
Exactly.
Like, you're not Two-Face.
Exactly. So going on to my second point about where being too critical came out in favor of comic book fans.
Before you go into that, I want to talk about one thing, because obviously we're unscripted here, and I can interject anytime I want, which is fantastic. A time it went wrong. Okay, and I'm going to give a great example here.
Okay, go ahead.
And that is with Tim Drake.
Okay, how so?
Everyone that heard that they're going to turn to Robin's sexuality, everyone was freaking out because they thought it was going to be one person, and then they were like, maybe it's going to be Tim. Comes out to be Tim. Sold well for the books. He got a date. Tim's been in like 7 issues of different series. Not once is it mentioned. Not once do they talk about it. He was literally dating, spoiler, right before this happened. He ghosted her like everybody else in 2022.
My God.
And not personal, reasons. My point is that like they literally had him just ghost her, went into this new book, which is Batman Urban Legends, had a story arc for him. He's like, I like boys. Okay, cool. What are you going to tell me about this? What's going to happen here? Batman kind of knew. He's the greatest detective ever. We get it. But nothing.
So do you think the Tim Drake sexuality change and reveal was more for sales than it was for storyline?
Yes.
And you think that, well, let me ask you this then. Do you think that Jonathan Kent's organic transformation, you don't think that was for sales or story?
No, what I believe is they needed something at the time to see if it'll work. They used Tim Drake. It really didn't pay off for him.
I see. Okay.
I think that with Jonathan Kent, though, Superman is such a symbol that him taking over as his father's footsteps, let's say, comes out a different way.
Very true. Okay, that makes sense.
Then Orphan that really doesn't have ties to Batman other than the fact that he found out who he was because, of a computer.
Right.
So if it was somebody like, let's say, Jason Todd or Dick Grayson, bigger outcome.
Fair.
Mind-blowing.
Right.
Using a minute, even if it was Damian, that's his own
blood.
I
think those characters are too established to make that kind of a drastic change, though.
Yes, but we got to also realize that Jonathan Kent's been around for such a long time, too. It just hasn't been a continuity
Not as long
issue.
As Dick Grayson, though. But like if you were to do that kind
of,
but
he's been around longer than a Tim Drake.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Okay, so going on to my second point of
Mhm.
where being too critical panned out for comic book fans. Let's talk about Marvel's New Warriors.
Yes,
Safe Space and the other characters that I don't care enough about to figure out their names.
we can bring up one other person too. The Flash from Future State.
Mhm.
It's the same aspect that you're going into.
Right. So look at it this way, right? When that New Warriors team was introduced and
Mhm.
brought out, and I think that Marvel's delivery of that was very poor. And I think that fans had an absolute right to be livid and upset
Mhm.
because it just wasn't a good concept, right? I don't think they were doing it for any other reason except to generate controversy and potential sales, right? These characters didn't. Okay, so it needs to be said, this is my opinion only, guys. It's my opinion, so take it however you want to. I think this was just a poor attempt at symbolizing the current state of affairs in real life, and it just was not a good try, and
Right.
it was horrible. It was atrocious. It was something that nobody wanted except for maybe a small minute group of comic book readers or people that didn't even read comic books, and the comic book community had a right to be livid and upset about that. And there's a reason why the book never even saw the light of day, and that I think is one of the times when being overly critical was beneficial, because yeah,
Yeah.
that book would have been horrid.
Well, we look at that, and there was so much marketing for it, though. Like
Dude, they were
every
pushing it hard.
everything, and
Yeah.
if it would have, if you could have wrote, like I said, with the whole Tim Drake thing, and I've said about this with all characters that everyone's mad about, that they're changing sexuality or their sexuality is different than what you perceive it as.
Right.
Like, if you write it well, if it's a good story, there shouldn't be a reason as long as you're drawn into the
Exactly.
character. But when, like, the new Flash, I can't remember the Flash's name because it just never stuck with me.
Mhm.
You're in future state. I think the pronouns, I forgot what the pronouns were. I'm not even going to go into it because I don't want to offend anybody here. So I'm just going to say the new Flash in there.
Mhm.
Literally was in, I think, a issue of Justice League,
Okay.
and then that was it. Like, we're seeing
It's like
Avery more, who's in Justice League China, than we are this character.
It's like they're bringing these characters in just for the sake of bringing them in long enough for people to talk about them and generate sales for that particular book, and then you never see them anymore, or
Yeah.
you never hear about the sexuality change that was completely necessary for them to do to sell the books, and then it's done. You know,
Yeah.
it just doesn't make any sense to me.
So to me, like, the critical aspect of it all,
Mhm.
like, yeah, I can see, yes, we are critical
Mhm.
in our own right. Again, our own right.
Right.
Being critical towards others for their own right is not what we want. Like you said,
Exactly.
it is a toxic. It's almost like a toxic relationship with other
Mhm.
people because of the fact that we all come together for this one part.
Well, take this into consideration. What happened with the Black Panther way back in the 60s, when he was doing some solo stuff in different titles or whatever,
Mhm.
and they were saying something along the lines of they wanted. Now I know I'm misquoting and all that stuff, but the
We're
gist of it,
paraphrasing.
right? The gist of it is this: they wanted the Black Panther to fight one particular villain, and the writer and or artist at the time ended up having him fight the KKK instead, and that's the type of thing that needed to happen.
We
And
literally had a book just come out, Superman fights the KKK,
right,
and it was 2021.
and Stan Lee in one of his famous soapboxes even talked about being inclusive and not
Right.
exclusive. And the whole point of things like X-Men, the whole point of why they were created was during the civil rights movement. You know what I mean? To showcase in comic book form characters that were dealing with the same things that people of color were dealing with in the 60s, right? And it opened a lot of people's eyes, and it gave people a whole new perspective on how things were taking place at that time, and when Stan stands on his soapbox and he's like, all y'all need to calm down, all y'all are being a little too crazy right now, listen to the man.
Yes. Now let's bring it down to a little more minute.
Okay,
we're going to take a different direction here. We talked about the major topics, obviously, from the gender to sexuality to race. Let's talk about suits.
Okay.
And I'm going to bring this up because this is one of the better parts of last year.
Okay.
The Amazing Spider-Man run. There's one issue. I believe it was, 68 or something like that. Some weird number.
Was that during like the Chameleon stuff or the
Yes, I think it was just I think it was just at the beginning of it.
Right. Okay.
They changed his suit on a cover.
Okay.
Everybody lost their minds.
I've got an opinion on this.
Okay, I can understand the nostalgia of the suit. I can understand the aspect of the suit. You went through 3 movies where Spider-Man was in a different suit each. He was Night Monkey.
That wasn't a Spider-Man suit.
Was he Spider-Man in it? He was whipping away.
He was Spider-Man, but that wasn't a Spider-Man suit.
Yes, it was. I will die on this hill. So we literally have Night Monkey. We got the Tony Stark, Iron Spider, whatever it is. The new suit, and then no one's got a problem with it that he has instant kill, but we have a problem where literally he changes the suit for an issue and people want that issue taken off the shelves because it's not the nostalgia that they grew up on with Steve Ditko. And
here's my opinion on that, and I even talked to my son about this. Certain characters and certain things cannot be altered too much.
Someone's being critical.
Well, yes. Okay. So yes, that's exactly right. But there are certain things that have to stay maintained, right? Superman, let's take him for example. You cannot alter the S shield too much. You can't. You can't. Well, yes, but you can't go too crazy, right? It has to maintain a certain look to it. It has to have the flowing river of hope, and it can't go much beyond that. Batman being another one. There are certain
first off, his suit changes every reboot,
but the main things stay the same. You know what I mean? They stay the same. The horns, and
Spider-Man still looks like a spider.
Yes, and with Spider-Man, certain things have to be maintained. Spider webs, all that stuff. If you change things too drastically, you're going to throw these people's sense of reality off balance, and they're going to lose their minds. You just can't do it. But with Wolverine, he can have a brand new costume every 2 issues and nobody will care because he'll always go back to the classic blue and gold or the brown.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. Hey, so, not at all. Hey, if you look at Old Man Logan,
critical.
No, I'm not. I'm actually having a conversation with somebody that can't lean one way.
It's not true.
You're worse than the people online there on Reddit right now.
Let me go on to comic books on whatever.
But no, it's literally like I said, like Wolverine can change his costume and it's fine. But like you said, this is one issue of Spider-Man. You just said that he could change it for 2 and no one would care. Or
on
2
Wolverine.
Yeah, but why isn't that a prominent character if what I grew up on was him being in the blue and the yellow?
Well, very true. Very true.
But so you're sitting there saying it's okay for one that had an iconic look, but it's not okay for the other that has an iconic look.
Well, I just think that with certain characters, certain things cannot be altered too much. Right?
But again, Wolverine, certain character, completely altered.
What issue of Spider-Man are you talking about? Because I'm going to look that up like right now in the
middle of this
conversation, and I want to see exactly what.
Trying to remember which one it was. It was just type in Spider-Man suit change, and it should come up. but my point is that you're like, we're seriously sitting here talking, and you're like, you can't change too much about him. But Wolverine can go from a, yellow and blue, suit to him being in a Dago tee and a bomber jacket. But it's okay.
That was 2021, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
wait a minute. Is this the gray and blue thing? Number 63? Is that it? Well, you can't.
I can't.
Number 63, you can't really see it.
I'm gonna bring it up on my phone. You do your thing.
That's what it looks like. If that's the case, I do believe that was a variant cover, and that suit didn't last very long. Now, as far like I'm talking about drastic changes to the classic suit, that's what I'm talking about, and I don't think I'm being too critical in that aspect, because drastic changes to the classic suits you can't do too much of. There's just certain things that you can't do. But with Spider-Man, I mean, it's come to be known even back in like before Octavius took over his body. Spider-Man had a different suit every other issue, and the Electro suit and the stealth suit and the Freedom Force suit, right? Mm-hmm. The white and black one with the huge spider on the front, the Bagtastic Bagman, or whatever the case may be. Just with this, I think that was just another variant for a particular event that he was going through at the time, and then he doesn't use that suit anymore.
Yeah, but again, it is still a whole critical thing where people were like, why are you doing this? But it's okay for other characters that have iconic suits to do it. But because it's Spider-Man, we got to throw that out the window, and we got to, go back and kind of contradict ourselves.
Well, look at it this way. Look at it this way. If in one issue, the issue before 62, he had the classic blue and red suit, right? And then the next issue, they're like, in issue 63, this is Spider-Man's new suit forever. That's a super drastic change, dude. That's not organic.
Again, but nothing lasts forever.
That's also true. But it goes back to what we were talking about before, about things being organic and things taking going through the process of time, right? Something like that, a drastic change like that, you can't do something like that. Comic book fans' egos are too fragile. You can't do that.
Oh, you can.
Well, yes, you can, but
they did.
And you see the reaction that it got.
Yeah, but that's being too critical, because at another standpoint, you could look like you just said, and I'm bringing this up repeatedly because I'm trying to get it through your head.
No, I get it.
Literally sat there and said, you could do whatever you want with Wolverine because he already had an iconic look. Well, so did Spider-Man for the last 90 years.
Well, I think you're misrepresenting what I was saying about like being iconic. With Wolverine's iconic looks, there's two, right? There's two as far as comic books are concerned. That's the classic blue and gold, and then that's the brown and tan. Right. Those are they didn't have the inks for that time with the brown and tan. So exactly. So those are like the two iconic looks. I don't think up until recently Wolverine had put on the brown and tan suit in 20 years. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then they put him back in it, and people are like, yeah, it's whatever. I mean, his suit changes with the current mood of the X-Men. Right. So like with Wolverine's suit, that doesn't necessarily apply to somebody as. Okay.
Let's flip the script a little bit here.
Okay.
Let's talk about Captain America when he took on the Nimrod costume.
When was that? Was that back in the Nomad costume? Is that what you're talking about?
The all black.
I don't remember that. So you'll have to refresh me.
That was literally in the paper.
Okay. Well,
that they changed his costume. Like, legitimately, like he got the whole black costume, everything, and in the paper they changed. It was like, I forgot what I can paraphrasing, but they're like changing Captain America from hero to villain, and he wasn't a villain.
Was that during the Secret Empire storyline?
No, that was when he was like Hydra Cap. That had nothing to do with it.
But see, the Secret Empire storyline fits right into what we're talking about. People lost their collective excrement when he said Hail Hydra, right? Everybody lost their minds when that happened. That was a change that was not organic, that was done right now, and that's what happens.
Technically, that is organic, because the storyline is the reason he did that is because it wasn't Steve Rogers.
Exactly, but that wasn't revealed until later.
But it's still organic because it happened that way.
I don't know. I have
the story literally you had to wait for the story to end to understand why it happened.
But people can't wait that long when you do a change like that.
Yeah. Don't get mad that I'm right. Just know
I'm not
am.
mad. I haven't even read the story. I have it sitting over there. And
Okay, so just let you know the ending is, a spoiler alert. But no, it's literally been the same concept. Like we can go back and forth on like that's what we're doing. We're talking about being critical. We can go back and forth all day.
Right. And see, that's what happens is when you get into a conversation like this, you kind of dig your heels in the trenches and you kind of push real hard on your position. You know what I mean?
Like you brought up the whole, like with the whole, we'll go back to the Spider-Man thing.
Okay.
Your heels are stuck. Yeah. Like, I mean, you're not moving, you're not budging. I'll budge you, but not that far.
Exactly.
But my point is that you feel one way. Like I said at the beginning, right. I feel a totally different way because of it. So we're both critical in a sense to be, you might be right and I might be wrong in some cases, but I might be right and you might be wrong in some cases. We got to understand that both of us we're both right with our opinions. What we're wrong on is how we go about our opinions.
See, and I think that's the perfect place to end this episode right there. It couldn't have been said better. So, Jamie, before we get out of here, you got anything else you want to say before we end this wonderful conversation?
I'm glad I won this argument.
Wait a minute, round 2.
Yeah, fight. No, but again, guys, be kind to one another as always. Obviously, in the world that we're talking about here, you need that. Whether you think you're right and the other person you think is wrong, you're both right.
Yeah.
Get over yourselves. Exactly. Let your ego fit through the door together. Go have a drink. Do what you need to do. But as always, guys, please, as you guys always do, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any more of the content that we're going to be putting out for you. Because, guys, it's a lot. And to mention that on Spotify, you can find us at Code X2 as well. So, as always, it's me. You guys have a good one. We'll see you in the next one.
And don't forget, guys, follow us on all social medias. That would be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, right here on YouTube, over there on Twitch, and like Jamie said, on Spotify and other podcasting platforms. Type in Codex, the Codex Podcast, or Codex Podcast, and you'll find us lickety split. Once again, guys, my name is Tim. This wonderful guy over here is Jamie. This is Breaking the Code. You guys have a wonderful day.